The Guardians pitching factory was on full display during the spring breakout game. Who stood out? Plus, your questions, including the ideal 26-man playoff roster in 2026 on today's Locked On Guardians.
Tanner Bibee of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Guardians fans, what's going on? Welcome back into another episode of Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, brought to you by MLB The Show 26. Visit MLB.theshow/LockedOn. Use code LOCKEDON to unlock a pack for use in Time and Dynasty. Available now on PlayStation 5, Xbox, Nintendo Switch. Rated E for everyone. Stay tuned for later in the episode of our MLB Top 100 highlight. I am Justin Lada, your host for the show, have been for the last 4 years and counting, with my co-host Jeff Ellis, who's off this episode. We have both spent 19 years covering the Guardians minor league system, the draft. We've been all over the place covering this team top to bottom. All right, on today's show, we're going to get into the roster moves that affect opening day, including what happened in the spring training game on Thursday night. A little bit, I'm going to get to all your questions for our Mailbag Friday segment. But first, we have to talk about who made a big splash in today's spring breakout game. I thought it was all pitching, honestly. Hitting was not all that fun in this game for Cleveland. The lineup, to be honest, was leaving a little bit to be desired. Like, the starters were Watson, who struggled, and Ingle had 2 walks. I'll talk about him in a little bit. Velasquez, I'll talk about him in a little bit. And then you had, Tolentino, Henao started, Alfonso Rosario, Jason Churio, Wuilfredo Antunez, Dari Fernandez started. He was interesting. But it was the pitching for sure that was the standout in this game. And I think nobody was better in this game for Cleveland than Joey Oakie. Now, I know Oakie ended up allowing 2 hits and walking a batter. Josh Hartle only gave up 1 hit, but Joey Oakie was just absolutely an electric factory in this game. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm showing the data from TJ Stats, the card there. But I'll just go over some of it real quick with you. The data on him today was absolutely phenomenal, in my opinion. 2 innings, 3 strikeouts. He was averaging 97 with the fastball, almost 98. And if you're looking at the card on YouTube, on the overlay, the release height data was fantastic. We're talking about a guy who has a very low release height, under sub 6. It's VREL is what you're looking for, vertical release height. That's 5.2. Usually anything below 6 is really shallow. And the extension there, this is the first time we're getting data on Joey Oakie extension. We see it is almost 7. It is 6 and a half on a lot of these, 6.8, 6.7, 6.9. That's really good for the fastball. The velocity was good. The stuff plus grade didn't come back great on the fastball, but it got a lot of whiffs, so I like that. The slider was phenomenal for him, averaging 88 miles an hour almost. And again, fantastic extension on that. The release height there. Had a cutter that also looked really good, I thought, and the changeup. He threw a changeup that was 91 miles an hour. Now, that's something he's going to have to work on. I wonder if he has a kick change or something, but the data on Joey Oakie was fantastic, and he was blowing away hitters with the fastball. Got some really ugly swings in the slider in those 3 strikeouts. He had 7 whiffs in the game overall, 4 called strikes. He was just fun to watch. He would, only threw 33% first pitch strikes. So you can see that control and command are going to be things that Joey Oakie needs to work on. But I really like the stuff. He's not going to turn 19, or I'm not going to turn 20 for a few more weeks. It's really exciting to watch him. Let's go on and look at next. I think Yorman Gomez was the guy that I thought stood out for the Guardians. And I'll show his data here on YouTube if you're watching. But again, not like really impressive stuff. He didn't get a whole lot of whiffs in this game. Only got 6, didn't strike any, or only struck 1 out. He did allow 4 hits, but I thought he was impressive because he didn't walk anybody. And some of the data is a little pedestrian, I'm going to be honest. Like the release height is very high. The vertical approach angle on the fastball is a little bit lower. That's good. But the extension's not really there for the most part for him. But the velocity is good. Like, he got chases with his fastball. He got whiffs with the fastball, averaging 96. The cutter was good for him. Got some good grades out of that. The slider was good. Curveball was decent. They threw one changeup that was 86. So I think overall it's a fun pitch mix for Gomez, and he was in the zone. He showed off. I think it's going to be like a kitchen sink type of approach, but I really love the velocity there. He's sustaining it, and that's good because that was new for him last year. And you could tell that's something he's really worked on and now is able to sustain it. So that's a good sign for him. And that, he didn't miss a lot of bats, but he was able to keep the Angels off the board. He gave them 4 hits, but honestly, they were all very light hits. Like if I look at the data here on the hits and the balls in play, one was a bunt single, one was an 82 mile an hour double, the other one was an 89 mile an hour single, and the other was a 96 mile an hour single. Now he did get a 113 mile an hour double play, so it evens out a little bit, right? The hard hit ball goes for 2 outs, and then he gives up 4 hits. 3 of them are extremely soft, I would say. At least 2 are very soft, so it evens out. But that's a good sign, getting weak contact and throwing the whole arsenal. Let's next look at Josh Hartle. I thought he was the next most interesting arm today. A little bit in terms of results, but also in terms of data. So if you're looking on YouTube on TJ Stats' graphic, extension is the thing that stands out here. 6.5 feet of extension. That's going to be very important for Josh Hartle because if you look at the 4-seam velocity, it was 92, which is about where he was in college. That's a good sign because remember at the end of his Wake Forest years, he was, dipping into the low 90s, a little bit below that. And there were some concerns there. Plus the control was all over the place. Threw a lot more strikes in this one, but the sweeper was fantastic. He threw 28 pitches, 16 were sweepers. So very sweeper heavy. And he got a ton of whiffs on him. Let me double check what the whiffs are, but I'm pretty sure it was the most whiffs by a Guardians pitcher in this game. I only had 3 whiffs on it, but it was only 3 he got. But threw 2 for strikes, also fastball for strikes. Didn't get any whiffs on that. The cutter got a couple of whiffs or got a couple of called strikes, so that's good news for him. But overall, I thought extension on the fastball was really good for him on everything. Threw his whole pitch mix for strikes, and clearly that sweeper is going to be a good pitch for him. Only 43% first pitch strikes, but he was in the zone, 43% of the time. Could be better, but I thought that was interesting. And then Braylon Dowdy, who I thought was going to be the best pitcher in this game. I was so excited to see him and get some data on him. Kind of, I don't want to say underwhelmed me, but remember, he's only 20 years old. He gave a 3-run homer. He hung a curveball, and that's going to happen. But Stuff Plus loved the curve and the slider. The other stuff like the vertical approach angle, the release height, all kind of, average in the middle. The extension's not really there. But, we saw him get up to 95, 96 with the fastball. Last year it was very 92, 93, 94. So I think you love that he got up with the fastball a little bit and he threw a sinker, he threw a cutter. And if you look at the spin rates on this card from TJ Stats, I mean, the spin rates are bonkers. The fastball spin rate's good. Even the sinkers got spin. His changeup probably has too much spin. It's a little over 2,000. But the slider and curveball 2,800. And I want to point this out too. Spin rate on breaking stuff alone doesn't say much, doesn't do much. Okay. It needs to be paired with other data besides that, but it's a good starting point. And the Stuff Plus models loved those 2 breaking pitches, and he's been working on that changeup and he's been working on that cutter. So yeah, he maybe wasn't the best of all the guys that pitched today. Still a lot of reason for optimism there. I mean, again, he's only 20 years old. I said the other day he'll start in Lake County. 75 first pitch strike, so he is a strike thrower. The chase rate was pretty good. He had a 24% chase rate. I'll take that for now. 5 whiffs overall. Two of them came on the fastball. 2 came on the cutter. Again, he was maybe not the best of the big 4 that pitched, but he was still pretty good, and that's really exciting. So the pitching factory is humming. All right, Wuilfredo Antunez, he hit the crap out of the ball. That's all I can say. That home run was 102 miles an hour, 27-degree launch angle. I don't know if they had the distance on it. It doesn't look like they had the distance on it, but it was a hard hit ball. Good for him. And he had actually hit a single 110 miles an hour later in the game. Wuilfredo Antunez has tools. He does. The guy can hit for power. He's got a big arm. He's okay of a runner. Doesn't really play the field all that well, ironically enough. There's a little bit of like Oscar Gonzalez, Jonathan Rodriguez here because I don't like the approach. I think I've said that before. But the tools can be loud, and that's exciting. And then Cooper Ingle, defensively was fantastic. He was throwing down to second base really good. He had a good off-angle throw off his back foot, leaning after scooping a ball in the dirt in the other batter's box. So that was fun to see. He worked 2 walks because he's Cooper Ingle. So very fun to see that from Cooper. And then we'll quickly touch on Ralphie Velasquez. He did strike out early in the game against the starter for the Angels, which was Dylan Jordan, who looked really good, by the way. Later in the game, Velasquez, though, 106 mile an hour ground out and a 101 mile an hour ground out. The launch angle was just the problem there. So he whiffed in the zone on a fastball, and he grounded into 2 ground outs on hard stuff too. Later in the game, hit the ball hard. So he could have gotten a little bit luckier, I think. But overall, an interesting day for him, and something he has to work on as well. All right, I got a couple of other names I want to throw out there from the game. A little bit of disappointments. We did the good stuff in the first segment. We'll take care of the disappointments in the second segment. We'll get to your mailbag questions, and then later on, we have to get into some opening day roster decisions that are coming into focus. That's coming up next. Today's MLB Top 100 highlight brought to you by MLB The Show 26, the latest from our favorite video game franchise. Each week, we're highlighting the stars of MLB's Top 100 players list, elite names you're controlling in MLB The Show. Today, we're spotlighting some Royals in the top 100. Bobby Witt at 4, Markel Garcia at 66, Cole Reagan's 88. Vinny P came in at 106. I got to tell you, I like the Royals roster. Cleveland had 2 in the top 100. I think they should have had 3 with Cade Smith. I think Bobby Williams and Bazana could be in there, but I also think Vinny Pasquantino and Jack Caglione could be in as well. Guards fans, if you want to beat KC yourself, you can do it in franchise mode in MLB The Show. That is this week's MLB Top 100 highlight, presented by MLB The Show 26, so you can play, manage, and build as your favorite teams and players. If you love baseball, you'll love playing this game even more. Visit MLBThe.show/LockedOn. Use code LockedOn to unlock a pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Available now on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, Nintendo Switch, rated E for everyone. And you know what? College basketball is nonstop. It's frustrating, but there are big games. There are tight spreads, momentum swings every night. We've already had early tip-offs. We're going to have some late-night West Coast shootouts, always action on the board all month long. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into an even bigger potential win with a college basketball parlay profit boost. So you're going to build any college hoops parlay you want. All these games, these upsets, these underdogs. If your bracket's messed up like mine already, go in and apply a profit boost to one of your favorite parlays and make up for it. Feel better about yourself. I've already got UNC and Ohio State out. I'm going to have St. Mary's out here in a second. So go check it out. Make yourself feel a little better if your bracket's already toast in round 1. On day 1, go safe, go bold. Ride with the team you've been following all season long. It's your parlay, your style. Now with even more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. It's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Hello there, everydayers, insiders, and all people commenting on YouTube. Don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club. If you never miss an episode of Locked On Guardians, you get access to ad-free episodes of the show, as well as our group Discord chat with me and Jeff, other listeners of the show, as well as everybody else on the network, all the other hosts, all the other fans of those teams as well. We're all there hanging out in the Discord, talking about the games, talking about March Madness. We're talking about all kinds of stuff sports-wise. Tap the link in the show notes or go to lockedonguardians.supercast.com. Again, as a member, you get ad-free versions of the show, and it's all part of the subscription. But we are free every day, everywhere you get podcasts. So appreciate you guys always being here with us and making your first listen here on the network and asking all these great questions we're going to get to in a minute as well. So I also wanted to point out, and it's one game. So it's a single snapshot in a moment, and these guys didn't even start. I obviously wanted to watch and see what happens with Jay Slavolette, and not surprised he struck out in his only plate appearance. Same with Nolan Schubart. I'm sorry, Nolan Schubart actually did get a hit in this game. He did strike out in his other. He got a 91 mile an hour single, so that's not bad. I'll take that. I mean, I thought he hit the ball harder than that, but those two guys were a little underwhelming. I'm not really surprised, but at the same time, again, it's one game, it's one snapshot. Khalil Watson didn't look all that good either. Angel Hanau was great defensively. I didn't mention this before, Dory Fernandez had a couple of hits. They weren't really hard hit balls, but defensively he looked phenomenal. showed off his cannon at second base. I'm intrigued by him as well. We didn't get to see much from Uniker Caceres. Alfonso Rosario was unimpressive. Like that's been all camp. That's been AFL for him. That's been AA. I'm a little bit worried about Alfonso Rosario, if I'm being honest. So we'll see. But again, it's one game, one snapshot, and the Angels are throwing out their best pitchers, or at least their best prospects. And they all threw hard, by the way. Gomez and Oakie were both topping out in the high 90s, Dowdy mid 90s, Hartle low 90s, and then Ellerts. I think everybody for the Angels was throwing like 97, 98, 99. So a lot of fun. All right, let's get to your questions, because I said this is a mailbag show. We had to, of course, cover the spring breakout game, but I've got plenty of questions from all of you insiders and everydayers, and there's some good ones. So I want to get to them. So the first one is, this one's unknown. I don't have a name for this. It didn't show up when you sent the question. So if this is your question, text me and let me know your name. But what is your way too early ideal 26-man playoff push roster? That's a great question. I like that. Looking ahead and being positive, right? So if I had to be honest about the rotation, it's got to have Messick in it. It doesn't change. Like right now, I think Logan Allen's going to be the fifth starter, start the season, or whatever he slots into the rotation, because it doesn't matter. But Bibee, Williams, Cantillo, Ciccone, Messick, I think are your five. That, to me, that's your five. If everyone's healthy, I think that's your five. I believe in those guys. I think the adjustments Ciccone has made with the cutter are interesting. So, I believe what's going to happen there. And then, Quan, I think Quan is your center fielder, for better or for worse, in terms of how that's going to affect his ability to hold up throughout the year. But I think that's the best way things shake up, right? Like you want to have DeLauder and right, and then you figure out left field, whether it's Valera, whether it's Martinez, whether it's maybe it's CJ Capus. I don't know. Left field is one of those things you got to figure out. I don't know. Maybe that's where they trade for somebody for like a rental, right? Maybe that's where that comes into play. I think left field could be very open, or it could be center field. Depends on how things are shaking out at that point. So maybe you get an acquisition out there. You got Jose, who, by the way, hit a home run in Thursday night's game. Shoulder seems fine. Manzardo hit a home run off a lefty Noah Cameron. God, you needed that. Felt good about that. Rhys Hoskins hitting the ball better. So I think those are set. Shortstop, I think ideally is probably Gabriel Arias, just for the defense alone. I know I've been kind of fighting Jeff on that recently, but I think it is what it is. Same with Bo Naylor as your catcher. And then second base is Bazana. So I think you have an acquisition in the outfield and left field or center. You have Quan, you have DeLauder. Maybe you go out and get a platoon bat in right field, a right-handed hitting outfielder. And then you have Bazana at second base. The rest of it's set. And then you have Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, Sean Armstrong. Tim Herron's looked good this spring. Peyton Paulette's on this team, I think. Walters and Espino, I think, could be guys that could help you out. Maybe you get a reliever, but they're expensive at the deadline. I'd rather go out and get that corner outfielder. So I think that's your ideal push. I like that. I think that's the way to go. I'd love to get a shortstop and it not be Arias, but I'm going to stick with Arias if I have Bazana and I can get a left fielder or a center fielder who might hit right-handed and be a better fit. Jeff M said, wants to know who is the first surprising DFA of the year? Who's the most surprising call up? The first surprising DFA. So the roster is full at 40. They need to make room for Hoskins, which probably is Walters to the 60. And then, I don't know. Are we going to call Nolan Jones a surprise as a DFA? Because I think it's coming. I think Fairchild gets the spot. It wouldn't shock me if Doug Nikhazy is DFA'd off the roster to make room for somebody. Surprising call. I don't know if there's anybody who would surprise me. Like, Ralphie Velasquez. I don't know how it happens, but they really like him. They've talked him up all spring. He's playing well. I'm excited. That could be your surprise call up. I wouldn't mind that. Maybe he's your left fielder. Heck, why not? I'd put him in left field. Why not? Aaron B said, what are your go-to online resources for tracking players? Free ones. So there's a lot of good places. We are very blessed that baseball, there's a lot of public data. Now, the data behind industry wise is much better, obviously, but I have my buddy Arthur who checks or does all the roster tracking at nextyearincleveland.substack.com. So he has rosters for every level of the system, all the DSL rosters, options, contracts, all the details on that. So luckily I have Arthur to go to for like all the roster details on that. And then I also check Fangraph's roster resource against that. I'm always looking at Baseball Savant. That's a good one. Prospect Savant has AAA data, and they might have more this year based on what we're seeing. TJ Stats puts out a lot of good data out there, I think. Pitching Pro is out there. Saris has a lot of good data. Baseball America, they have a couple writers who have access to True Media, so they have data on minor leaguers that we don't have, and college players too. So those are paid because you have to pay for the Baseball America subscription. But in my opinion, it's worth it. But there's a lot of good stuff out there. And Baseball Prospectus has a lot of good stuff. They have some interesting data on minor league hitting, defense, and they have some of the best catching data in the minors too. They'll tell you like who has the best blocking numbers, throwing numbers, and framing numbers among catchers. So they have a leaderboard for that. So Baseball Prospectus, and that's free. So Baseball Prospectus has that on lock. The catching stuff, I think, is where I go to for that. All right, we got a few more questions. We got to talk about opening day roster decisions that are coming down the pike. We'll get to that here in a minute. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to the test to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy and sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. Always knew the game. Never had a way to apply that dynamic knowledge in a way that I can actually take part in live now in a market that is powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you get to decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now. To begin, futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. And oh boy, workplace chaos. You got deadlines stacking up, inboxes overflowing. One position you have to fill, it's sitting open. That puts the pressure on. You need the right hire. It's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs, helping you reach people who actually fit what you're looking for in a job. Skills, experience, location. You're not hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And in the minute we've been talking, 27 hires have been made by companies like yours, according to Indeed data worldwide. If you are hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates, check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Less time searching, more time interviewing, less stress, less time, more results. Need the right person to cut through the chaos. Listeners of Locked On Guardians, you get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status that it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support Locked On Guardians, saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Once again, I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. We are not here without you. Literally, I am not sitting here talking into this microphone, sitting at this desk talking Guardians baseball. I'm probably talking to my wife or texting some friends. I'm not talking to all these people and getting to enjoy this team and this sport with all of you without the support of you. So I really appreciate all of you. Shout out to everybody who's an everydayer, an insider, and again, and all these questions you sent in for the mailbag. Everybody who texts us on Discord or subtext, commenting on YouTube. Appreciate being able to talk Guardians baseball with you every day of the week. Hit the bell on YouTube so you get notified of all the episodes, all the reaction videos to games, news, whatever it is, and auto download on all your favorite audio platforms. We're free everywhere, so you can take us wherever you go. I know John O, who's got a question coming up in the mailbag, said he'll be listening to us at 5:30 in the morning on his treadmill. That's dedication, man. That's dedication. I need your motivation, John O. I do. That's early for me, 5:30. John O, we got your question coming up. Real quickly, let's get to Matt M. Values aside, anybody on this list you wouldn't trade? Brito, Ingle, Kafis, Watson, Churio, and Halpin. I'm going to talk about Brito before we get out of here, but no, everybody on that list to me, you mentioned, Matt, I think is all tradable. I mean, there's no such thing as an untradeable player. Obviously, I'm not going to trade Travis Bazzana, but everybody else in general, I think all has a price. The only two guys, I mean, okay, so maybe 3, 4. Bazzana, Ralphie, probably not Dowdy, maybe not Cal Steven. Like those are the guys I'd be really leery at hesitant to trading. Everybody else, I think I would trade. And everybody on your list for sure I would trade if the right offer comes up. Michael O, more of a prediction, but if you had to take the Guardians to be a first-time All-Star this year, who is your pick? And he picked Chase DeLauder. I'm picking Cade Smith. I think Cade Smith is going to be a slam dunk All-Star closer in 2026. So go ahead and cash that in somewhere. All right, now, John O, if there was one thing about the Guardians you could change, what would it be? You're talking about the organization as a whole. Boy, well, I guess the one thing you'd want to change is spending money, right? Like, it'd have been really nice to go out and sign. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what outfield would have been great to sign. Like they could have gone out and added a center fielder this offseason. Would have been super nice. I'm trying to think of what center fielders were out there. I have to go back and look at my my list here from the offseason. But like, yeah, it would have been great to go out and get Kyle Tucker, right? No, Kyle Tucker is not a center fielder, but he'd have been a great fit. Kyle Tucker is awesome. Would love to get Juan Soto. He's great too. He's not really a good outfielder, but he's a good hitter, Hall of Famer. So, I mean, I guess that's the obvious answer. The other thing maybe would be, I keep saying they're risk averse. I think they're a little too passive and conservative on the trading side of things. Like, I wouldn't be I'm trying to think who makes all the moves. Like, oh, okay. So I wouldn't have their philosophy be like AJ Preller, who is just churning his prospects and system all the time. But I'd be more like Jerry DiPoto, where he's always adding on the fringes, always making trades. They have a great system. So, I wish maybe they were more like Jerry DiPoto. If we're not going to talk about the money thing. Kevin G, can you spend a few seconds, dedicate a few seconds to reminisce over Carlos Santana? Does he deserve a spot in the Cleveland Guardians Ring of Honor? Yes, Carlos Santana is a Cleveland Guardians Hall of Famer, not MLB or Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Famer, but a Cleveland Guardians Hall of Famer. He was a part of, 16, 17, 20. They bring him back in 22. Yeah, 22. I can't remember what year he was back. Was it 24? Anyway, he was a part of multiple division championship teams, multiple playoff runs, well respected for a long time here. Lots of walks, lots of home runs, dedicated himself to learning first base after he was no longer catching. So, yeah, without a doubt, Carlos Santana to me is a Cleveland Guardians Hall of Famer. All right. If I didn't get to your questions, I will save them for the future. I know John O had a bunch more as well. John, I'll get to those. I got a really interesting one that I think I'll save for the Guardians division or the season preview that we do on Monday. I want to get to a couple of bits of roster news here at the end. So Juan Brito is going to AAA to start the year. Not really a surprise, honestly, which means your opening day infield is Gabriel Arias, shortstop, and Brian Rocchio. And I said, oh boy, I don't want to see that again. I don't. Same with Nolan Jones. I don't want to see that. But I think in the long run, that's going to be best for Juan Brito. And here's why. Travis Bazzana is going to be a AAA. So Juan Brito is not going to be playing second base in Columbus, not in the short term. Juan Brito is going to have to go to AAA, and he's going to have to play first. He's going to have to play outfield. Maybe he plays third. I don't know. I'm not really sure third base is good. It's a good spot for him, but he's going to have to move around. Like he's going to play left and right. He's going to play first. We'll see if he plays third. I think that's a good thing for Brito because I think he's got to improve defensively. I believe in the bat as far as pitch selection, the ability to lift the ball in the air, not like Jose, but like in that same vicinity, like parking lot, I guess, parking garage, whatever you want to call it. He's got to be better with the glove overall to be an impact player on this team. And I think playing multiple positions, focusing on his defense will help that. He's not going to be able to stay at second base. Just point blank, he's not, unless they decide to move Bazzana to the outfield in the future. So we'll see. But I think it's going to be good for him in the long run. I still believe in him. I do think the defensive thing is important for him, and he's going to be forced to figure that out now. Things are lining up for the opening day starter. I don't know when they're going to announce it, but I mean, you probably can write it and pen after Saturday. As long as Tanner Bibee comes through his start fine on Saturday, not that there's anything to worry about, but they're not going to say anything until he gets through that start. But Tanner's your opening day starter, and he absolutely believes it. And I've got a good reason, not just because I think, he's a friend of the show and has been on the show, but there are some other things about it that I think make a lot of sense. And the biggest one to me is about trust and setting the tone for opening day. Like, the thing we've overlooked too about opening day starters is it's one start. First of all, it's an honor, and it's something you bestow on someone who deserves it. That doesn't mean Gavin Williams doesn't deserve it. He's a good pitcher and he works hard and they like him. But it's not about it's not about the previous season. I think it's about, the pitcher you trust, the person that the organization trusts at the tone for the rotation, handles the responsibility of leading the staff. And that is something Tanner has had to do since day one, since he came up, because he came up with all those injuries. I know Logan Allen was up first before him. But Tanner, was a runner-up rookie of the year for a reason. He's kind of had to be the face of the staff since they lost Shane Bieber. And I think he takes that seriously. That's why he got the contract. And I think that's why you reward him with opening day. That's why he deserves it. And the other two pieces of news. So Gaddis and Valera, they are progressing, which is a good sign. Gaddis is throwing bullpens. He has not been back into a game. Still considered day-to-day. So is Valera. But at this point, there's just not enough time for those two to make the opening day roster. So it is what it is with those two. I think Valera starts on the IL. Gaddis starts on the IL. That opens up a spot for, I think, Colin Holderman in the bullpen. Connor Brogdon doesn't have any options, so he was going to make it. Paulette's going to make it. So, yeah, I think that opens a spot for Connor Brogdon to start. Colin Holderman, too many C's. Colin Holderman to start the year in the big league pen. Remember, he has options, but you only got 5 during the year to use. You can send a player up and down 5 times, and if you try to send them down the 6th time, they're exposed to waivers. But he has 2 option years left total, so they can do that 5 times this year and 5 times another year. Maybe Holderman will pitch so well in the bullpen they won't send him down. Who knows? But yeah, I think that opens the door a little bit, and we'll see what happens when Gaddis is fully healthy. Who knows what they'll do at that point? Matt Festa is going to pitch, I think, on Friday in his first game back since he came back from the World Baseball Classic, and Holderman's pitching that same day too. Cody Hoyer, who I still think is interesting too. I didn't mention him the other day. And then Logan Allen is starting that game as well. So we'll see what happens there. And then for Valera, I think it's Stuart Fairchild is on the roster. It wouldn't shock me if Nolan Jones makes the roster with Valera being on the IL, but we'll see. What do I know? I'm just a guy talking about baseball, the horse voice. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me through that one. All right, we'll be back on Monday. We'll do the weekend wrap of everything that happened with the Guardians over the weekend. And we've got our season preview show. We got bold predictions. We got some minor league stuff we'll get into, some over-unders. We'll do a lot of fun stuff next week with the season preview, because guess what? Baseball, besides the World Baseball Classic, MLB baseball counts starting next week, folks. We have made it. We are less than a week away now when you're listening to this to actual opening day baseball. It's going to be late to start the year. You got Seattle, you got the Dodgers. That early schedule is going to be brutal. We'll talk about that next week as well. But I will be staying up all. I'm training to stay up. I've been in spring training to watch baseball, because I have been watching, Team Australia at 10 p.m. at night and at 6 a.m. in the morning. Now that's over. We've got March Madness going on, so I'm watching, the 10 o'clock games, the 9 o'clock games, and those. So I got to keep my schedule on for West Coast baseball to start the year. I don't love it, but baseball's back and we love that. So all good there. Make sure words are hard when you're a podcaster. Make sure you are subscribing if you haven't yet, downloading all that good stuff. Leave us a new review. We haven't had one since February. Help a friend learn about the show if they're getting excited about baseball season actually counting here shortly. So be a friend and tell a friend about Locked On Guardians. Until then, we'll see you on Monday. Go, Guardians, go.